There is a quiet truth echoing inside every soul, a truth that doesn't scream but whispers. You are not your job, you are not your past, you are not your failures or even your dreams. You become what you believe. And belief, real, deep down belief, isn't about wishing, it's about knowing. It's about planting a seed so deep in the soil of your soul that even when the storms come, even when the world forgets you, you don't forget yourself. You see, your life, right now, is a mirror. It's reflecting back what you believe you deserve. So the real question isn't, what do you want? The question is, what do you truly believe? Because the world can't give you what your heart doesn't believe is yours. And when you change your belief, your life will follow. I want you to close your eyes for a moment, not to escape the world, but to return to yourself, to that little child you once were, the one who used to dream with wide eyes and a fearless heart. What did you believe back then, before the world told you to shrink, before someone said you weren't enough, before you started asking for permission to just be yourself? Because here's the truth most people never hear until it's too late. Your belief system is the architect of your reality, not your education, not your background, not your money, but your belief. The reason why some people rise again and again is not because they were born lucky, it's because they believed they could rise. Belief is not a wish, it's not a vision board taped to your wall, it's not a post you saw online that made you feel good for 5 seconds. Belief is a decision, a sacred agreement you make with yourself and with the universe, that no matter what you are worthy, worthy of love, worthy of peace, worthy of greatness, but life will test that belief. It will throw storms at you. You will be fired, rejected, heartbroken, misunderstood, and the world will ask, do you still believe in yourself now? I know what that feels like. I've been in rooms where I was the only woman, the only black woman, the only person who felt invisible, and I stood there with a storm inside me, asking myself the same question. Do I still believe? And I had to, because no one was going to believe in me more than I believed in me. So when people say you're lucky to be where you are, Oprah, I tell them this isn't luck. This is belief made real through action, through pain, through faith. And I want to tell you today, you're not stuck because of your circumstances. You're stuck because of your story, the story you keep telling yourself, the one that says, I'm not ready, I'm too old, I've made too many mistakes. That story is a belief, and beliefs can be rewritten. If you want to change your life, start by changing what you believe is possible. You can't just dream a better life. You must believe you deserve one. And when you do, that belief becomes a frequency, and that frequency begins to attract people, moments, and opportunities that align with who you've decided to become. It doesn't happen overnight, but the shift begins the moment you stop waiting and start believing. You are not too broken, you are not too far gone, you are not too late, you are becoming, and what you become is what you believe. Let me say that again. What you become is what you believe. So the real question today is, what are you going to believe about you? Starting now, the first truth I want to share with you is this. Your life is a reflection of the story you've been telling yourself, and some of us, most of us, are walking around carrying stories that were never even ours to begin with. You were told you weren't smart enough, you weren't good looking enough, you weren't the right fit, and somewhere along the way you started repeating it, quietly, silently, until it became your inner voice, that voice that says, I'll always be behind. I'm not meant for more. People like me don't win. Let me tell you something I've lived and learned. Your belief system was built with borrowed bricks, and if you don't question it, you'll end up living in a house someone else designed. When I was a little girl growing up in Mississippi, poor, black, wearing potato sacks as dresses, people saw me and didn't see a future, didn't see possibility, didn't see greatness. But do you know what saved me? A teacher, Mrs. Duncan, who looked at me and said, you are destined for something bigger. That moment cracked open the walls of that story I had been trapped in. She handed me a new script, and for the first time I realized I could rewrite my own story. You see, you don't have to keep living by the old script, the one that's filled with doubt, fear, shame, and survival. You can edit it, erase it, rewrite the ending because your story isn't finished. Not by a long shot. I want you to ask yourself, what story have I been living? And who gave me that story? Was it a parent who never healed? A teacher who never believed? A partner who couldn't love you the way you deserved? Let it go, all of it, because that's not your story anymore. You are the author now, and the moment you change the story, the moment you say, no, I am not what they said I was, I am what I choose to become, that's the moment everything changes, because success doesn't start in your bank account. It starts in your belief system, and your belief system starts with the story you tell yourself every single day. So change the story and watch your life follow. Now let me tell you something that I had to learn the hard way. What you focus on expands, your energy is currency, and whatever you invest it in multiplies. If you focus on fear, fear will grow. If you focus on what's missing, you will feel lack. If you focus on failure, you will be frozen by it. But if you shift that focus, just shift it, to growth, to gratitude, to grace, you will feel the shift inside your life. You know, I used to wake up every morning thinking about everything I had to fix, the things that weren't enough, the people I needed to please, the goals I hadn't yet achieved, and one day, after I had finished another long, exhausting show, I looked in the mirror and asked myself, what am I building, a life or a performance? I realized I was spending all my energy trying to chase perfection, and in the process, I was ignoring my peace. So I stopped chasing and I started choosing. I began focusing on the small things, the silence before sunrise, the beauty in someone's eyes when they feel seen, the power of saying no without guilt, the freedom in letting go. And as I focused on what filled me, my life began to overflow. Let me ask you, where is your focus right now? Is it on comparison, on regret, on revenge, or is it on healing, on growing, on becoming the person you were always meant to be? Because you can't grow a garden if you keep watering the weeds. If you wake up every day focusing on what you're not, what you don't have, what hasn't happened yet, you will miss the beauty of what already is. Gratitude is not just a nice idea. It's a spiritual technology. It rewires your mind to see abundance instead of emptiness. And when you begin to focus on what's possible instead of what's painful, the universe listens. It responds, it opens doors, it brings people and moments into your life that mirror your focus. So if you want more joy, focus on it. If you want peace, turn your attention toward it. If you want success, focus on growth, not outcome, because whatever you focus on will expand, and the moment you shift your focus, you shift your future. There's something I want you to know, and I need you to hear it with your whole heart. Your pain is not the end of you. It is the beginning of something deeper. Somewhere along the way, we were taught to fear pain, to avoid it, to hide it, to be ashamed of it. But I've lived long enough to know pain is a portal, not a punishment, not a prison, but a doorway to awakening, to growth, to truth. There was a time in my life when I thought I had lost everything that made me. I was broke, abused, uncertain, standing in the storm of circumstances I didn't ask for, and I remember thinking, why me? But now, with time, with wisdom, I realize the better question was, what is this pain here to teach me? Because every wound carries wisdom. Every heartbreak carries a deeper hunger for love. Every loss makes space for something sacred to be found. You see, we don't grow just in sunlight. We grow in the rain. Some of the strongest trees were shaped by the fiercest winds. Their roots dug deeper because the storm required it. So if you're walking through darkness right now, don't run from it, don't numb it, don't pretend it isn't there, sit with it, listen to it, let it refine you, not define you, because here's the truth, you are not what broke you, you are what survived it, rose from it, rebuilt after it. Think about the version of yourself before the pain, and now look at who you're becoming because of it. More patient, more present, more powerful. That's not weakness, that's rebirth. And just like the lotus blooms from mud and diamonds form under pressure, you too are being shaped in the dark for the light. So the next time life brings you to your knees, don't say, "Why me?" Say, "What now?" Because pain is not your enemy, it is your invitation, an invitation to rise. Let me say this loud and clear, because somebody listening right now needs to hear it deep in their spirit. You do not need permission to be powerful. You don't need to wait for someone to choose you. You don't need a title, a degree, a follower count, or an applause track to validate your worth. You were born worthy, and somewhere inside you, that power has always existed. It's not missing. It's not broken. It's just been buried beneath layers of doubt, fear, and delay. Some of us have been playing small for so long that we've mistaken shrinking for humility. But humility isn't about hiding. It's about being rooted. Let me ask you this. Who told you to wait? Who made you believe you weren't ready yet? Was it a parent who never saw your light? A boss who overlooked your ideas? A world that said your voice was too loud or too soft or not important at all? Let me tell you something I had to learn after years of trying to prove myself to people who couldn't see me. The only permission slip you ever needed was already signed by the universe when you were born. I remember walking into my first major boardroom meeting, surrounded by people who didn't look like me, didn't sound like me, didn't understand where I came from. And yet, there I was. I sat at that table, and something inside me whispered, "Oprah, don't ask to sit here. Own your space. That's what I want for you, to own your space, not just in the room, but in your life. Stop waiting for someone to give you the green light. Be the green light, because if you keep waiting for permission, you might wait your whole life. Your dreams aren't asking for someone else's approval. They're waiting on your action. So write the book, launch the idea, speak up in the meeting, change careers at 40 or start fresh at 50. Whatever it is, do it. You don't owe anyone an explanation for blooming, for choosing joy, for saying yes to your own potential. You are already enough, already powerful, already chosen. Now walk like it, live like it, and never again ask the world to confirm what your soul already knows. You were born for this. There's a question that has followed me my whole life. Oprah, what do you want your legacy to be? And for the longest time, I thought legacy was something far away. Something you write in books, carve on stones, or leave in bank accounts when you're gone. But here's what I know now, after all these years. All the lessons, all the pain, all the beauty. Legacy isn't about what you leave behind. It's about how you show up right now. It's how you treat the person nobody else sees. It's the love you give without being asked. It's the honesty you hold when lying would be easier. It's the way your presence makes people feel safe, seen, and stronger. Your legacy is alive, breathing, being written in every moment you choose to be real instead of perfect. It's in the hug you gave your mother when she was too tired to ask for it, in the silence you offered a friend when they didn't need answers, just presence, in the courage it took to say, "I forgive you," even when your heart was still trembling. You don't have to change the whole world to leave a legacy. You just have to touch one life deeply, because when you do that, that person touches another, and another, and another. Legacy isn't about fame. It's about faith. Faith that what you're doing, how you're living, who you're becoming, it all matters. And I want to ask you something from my heart. What if your legacy isn't something you build someday? What if it's who you are when nobody's watching? What if it's the kindness you offer a stranger? The boundaries you set with grace, the dreams you keep believing in even when they scare you. That's the kind of legacy I want. One that doesn't wait for applause, one that doesn't begin at death, but is alive in every breath. You are writing your story every single day, whether you know it or not. So write it in truth, in courage, in compassion, in presence, and when you look back, when the years have passed and your body slows, but your soul soars, you'll know you didn't just live, you left something living in others, and that is your legacy. We've walked together through the valleys of pain, climbed through the cliffs of fear, sat in silence with heartbreak, and danced in the light of becoming, and now, here you are, on the edge of something sacred. You've heard the truth, that storms don't destroy you, they reveal you, that you don't need permission to rise, that your wounds are not stains, they are symbols of survival, that your life is already your legacy if you choose it to be. And now, beloved, the mirror is in your hands. Look into it, not at your past, not at your flaws, not at the doubts that were whispered to you in the dark, but at the fire that's always been flickering behind your eyes. Can you see it now? The you that's always been waiting to rise. This is not the end of your journey. It's the beginning of your return to yourself. And the question is not, will life break you? The real question is, what are you going to do with the pieces? Will you hide them, or build something the world has never seen before, something sacred, something strong, something called you? So before we part, I'll leave you with this. What if the greatest version of you hasn't even been born yet? And what if they're waiting for you to set them free? Close your eyes, listen, they're calling. There comes a moment, not once, not twice, but many times in life, when you find yourself sitting alone in silence, not surrounded by noise or distraction, but truly alone, alone with the echoes of your pain. And in that stillness, your mind asks the hardest questions. Why me? Why did this happen to me? Why did they leave? Why did I lose everything I held dear? Why did I have to suffer so much just to survive? And then you wait for a sign, you look around for answers, but the world, it stays quiet, your phone doesn't ring, no message lights up the screen, no cheering crowd, no applause, only silence, and what you feel in that silence is emptiness. But I want you to hear this clearly, that emptiness is not a void to be feared. It is not a dark hole pulling you down. It is a doorway, a sacred, mysterious doorway, a doorway to a version of yourself that does not yet exist but must be born. Not born in joy, not born in comfort, not born in the applause of others, but born in the rawness of pain, because pain, oh pain, pain is a teacher unlike any other. It's a purifier. It strips away the surface illusions. It is the soil where your deepest wisdom will take root and grow. And if you are willing to sit with that pain, not to escape it, not to numb it, not to run away from it, if you dare to stay with it, to feel it fully, you will discover something sacred. You will discover yourself. So today, I am not here to offer you a pretty speech. I am not here to offer easy answers or false comfort. I am here to walk with you through the brokenness, to sit beside your grief, to lean into the silence with you when hope feels like a distant memory. Because the most powerful people I have ever met, they weren't those who never suffered. No, they were those who learned to turn their wounds into wisdom. This is not the end of your story. This is the beginning of a new chapter. So take a deep breath, my love, and let us begin. Pain is not just a feeling. It is not just heartbreak or sorrow or the ache you carry in your chest. It is more than the lump in your throat or the tears that fall silently in the dark. Pain is sacred. Pain is what happens when life strips away everything that is not truly you. All the masks you've worn to please others. All the lies you were told about who you should be. All the beliefs that kept you small, hidden, afraid. Pain is your soul's rebellion. It is the fierce voice inside you shouting, I cannot live like this anymore. We live in a world that tells us to avoid pain at all costs. to medicate it, to suppress it, to hide it behind distractions. But pain is the portal. The very thing you want to escape is the very gateway to your liberation. Pain cracks you open, and inside that crack is where the light gets in. That light is you. I remember a time in my own life when I was completely broken, alone, betrayed, ashamed. I thought, this is it. I will never come back from this. But today, I want to tell you with every fiber of my being you will rise. And not just rise, you will soar. Because every scar you carry, every tear you've cried, every moment you felt shattered, they are seeds. And when you water those seeds with truth, with courage, with love, they bloom into wisdom. Wisdom cannot be taken away. It cannot be stolen or erased. Wisdom is what makes you unshakable. Wisdom is what sets you free. There will be a moment in your life, maybe it's already happened, or maybe it's still coming, where everything you believed about yourself will begin to unravel. The job that made you feel secure will vanish. The person you gave your heart to will walk away. The dream you held onto with trembling hands will slip through your fingers like smoke. And in that moment, in that hollow silence, you will look up and ask life, why me? And the answer will not come in thunder or lightning. It will come in the stillness. It will come in the tears that you cry in the dark when no one is watching. It will come in the quiet strength that rises in your chest the next morning when you decide to stand up anyway. Because pain, as much as we hate to admit it, is not life's punishment. It's life's greatest invitation. An invitation to wake up, to go deeper, to strip away everything that's not real, everything that was never you to begin with. See, I used to think pain was the end. I really did. I thought pain meant failure. I thought pain meant rejection. I thought pain meant I wasn't enough. But now I know pain is the beginning. Pain is the fire that forges your soul into something unshakable. Pain is the process of becoming. Every woman I've spoken to, every man who stood in my presence and opened their heart, has told me the same thing in different words. I didn't find myself in success. I found myself in struggle. The tears you shed aren't just grief, they're transformation. The ache in your chest, it's your heart expanding to hold more love than it ever has before. That loneliness, it's your soul creating space for a deeper connection to the divine. So hear me when I say this. Your pain is not a dead end. It's not a detour, it's a doorway, and what's on the other side of that doorway is you, but not the old you, the real you, the brave you, the awakened you. We live in a world that celebrates distractions. A world that says, don't feel that. Just scroll past it. Buy something, drink something, post something, just keep going. But I want to tell you something that may feel uncomfortable at first, and it may even go against everything you've been taught about strength, success, and survival. You must sit with your pain, yes, sit with it. Look it in the eyes, name it, let it breathe, because whatever you refuse to face will silently control you. I know this from my own life. There were days when I smiled in public and broke down in private. There were moments when I pretended to be okay because the world rewards strength, doesn't it? But I wasn't strong. I was avoiding, and avoidance is not strength. It is self-abandonment in disguise. And I had to learn, sometimes the hard way, that pain doesn't leave you because you ignore it. It grows in the dark. It roots itself in your relationships. It echoes in your decisions. It sabotages your joy in moments when everything should feel right, but something feels off, something unspoken, something unresolved. Have you ever felt that? Have you ever been surrounded by laughter, love, or even success? And yet your soul feels like it's screaming behind your smile. That's not brokenness. That's buried pain asking to be seen, asking to be heard, asking to be healed. Let me say this gently, with all the love I can pour into these words. You don't need to run anymore. You've been running for too long, running from the childhood wounds that still echo in your adult life, running from the heartbreak that you never gave yourself permission to grieve, running from the voice inside that says, you deserve more than this. But what if just for a moment you stopped, you closed your eyes, you took a deep breath, and instead of reaching for something to numb it, you allowed the pain to speak? You might hear your inner child say, I didn't feel safe. You might hear your past self say, I was never chosen. You might feel tears rise that you've held back for 10, 20, 30 years, and that moment, beloved, that is holy, because pain, when faced with love and honesty, begins to soften. It begins to shift. It begins to alchemize into something powerful. And I promise you this, the pain you're willing to sit with is the pain that will set you free, because once you face it, it no longer has power over you. You become the master, you become the healer, you become the storyteller not of your suffering, but of your survival. You don't need to explain it to anyone. You don't need to justify it. You don't need permission to cry. This is your moment, this is your reckoning, this is your homecoming, so go ahead, sit with it, hold it gently, let the tears come, and when they do, don't see them as weakness, see them as release, as cleansing, as sacred, because healing doesn't begin when you run from the pain. It begins when you honor it, when you invite it in and say, I'm here, I'm listening, I'm not afraid anymore. When we think about wounds, we usually think of scars, pain, and brokenness. We want to cover them up, hide them, erase them if we could. But what if I told you the greatest treasures of your life, your deepest wisdom, your truest power, your most profound gifts are hidden in those very wounds? That the cracks in your soul are the places where light pours in, that your pain is not just suffering, but a sacred teacher. Life doesn't give us wounds without reason. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every moment of feeling lost or less than, is a page in the story you are writing about who you really are, and those pages hold keys to empathy, courage, compassion, and authenticity. You see, when you live a life without scars, without pain, you live on the surface. You miss the depth, the richness, the fullness that comes from having felt. Some of the most beautiful, inspiring souls I have met, those who light up a room with their presence, carry stories of great pain. But they carry something else too, wisdom, a knowing that comes from surviving, from learning lessons that no textbook or classroom could ever teach. They have sat with their wounds long enough to realize that pain is a language speaking to them about their values, their boundaries, their desires, their purpose. For example, when your heart has been broken by love, you learn what it means to truly love yourself. You learn what kindness looks like when it comes from inside, not from someone else's approval. When trust is shattered, you learn the art of discernment, how to protect your spirit without building walls too high to climb over. When you've been rejected, you learn resilience, the power to stand again and again, even when the world says no. Your wounds are maps that guide you to your most authentic self. If you ignore them, you wander lost in the maze of fear, doubt, and false identity. But if you follow them, if you listen closely, they will lead you home, home to your strength, home to your voice, home to the person you were always meant to be. I know it's hard to believe sometimes. I know it feels easier to just pretend you're fine. But beneath the surface, your soul is asking you to see your pain as a gift, not because it feels good, but because it is good. It's good in the way that a storm is good. It shakes you to your core, breaks the old branches, and makes space for new growth. Imagine if you could hold your wounds with tenderness. Imagine if you could see them not as mistakes or weaknesses, but as sacred portals. If you could say to yourself, "Thank you for this pain. Thank you for showing me what matters most." That is the moment when the veil lifts, when the chains of shame, guilt, and regret fall away. When you realize that your greatest power lies not in perfection, but in your willingness to be real, to be vulnerable, to be beautifully, imperfectly human. So I invite you to become a student of your wounds. Ask yourself, what is this pain trying to teach me? What gifts lie hidden beneath my hurt? How can I turn my suffering into strength? This journey is not easy. It requires courage, patience, and above all, compassion. But it is the path to true freedom, the path to a life lived with meaning, purpose, and heart. Remember, the wisdom is hidden in the wound, and when you find it, you will find yourself. So many of us fall into the trap of thinking that healing is a goal, a place we arrive at, a box we check, a finish line we cross. We imagine that one day we'll wake up and the pain will be gone, the scars will be invisible, and we'll be whole and perfect and healed forever. But healing is not a destination. It is a journey, a winding, unpredictable path that stretches out before us like the open road beneath our feet. And it is this journey, with all its twists, turns, setbacks, and breakthroughs, that shapes who we become. When I say healing is a journey, I mean it in the deepest, most expansive sense. It is not about erasing your past or pretending it didn't happen. It's about learning to carry your past with grace. It's about making peace with the parts of yourself you once wanted to hide away or run from. Healing means allowing your wounds to breathe and evolve, and trusting that every step, even the painful ones, are moving you forward. Think about the seasons of nature. The tree does not rush to bloom in spring. It waits patiently through winter, gathering strength in its roots beneath the frozen earth. It withstands storms that threaten to break it. It grows slowly, steadily, with intention. That's healing. Slow, organic, beautiful in its imperfections. You might have days where you feel like you've taken 10 steps forward, and then suddenly 3 steps back. Maybe you feel like giving up. Maybe the pain feels too much. But those backward steps are part of the dance. They're reminders that healing is not linear. It's messy, confusing, and sometimes downright painful. In those moments, I want you to be gentle with yourself, to remind yourself that progress is not always visible, that sometimes just showing up for yourself, even when it feels impossible, is the greatest act of courage you can give. Healing is also about surrender. Surrendering control over the timeline, surrendering the need to fix everything immediately, surrendering the idea that you have to do it alone. It is okay to ask for help. It is okay to lean on others. Healing thrives in community, in shared stories, in hands that hold yours when your own feel too weak. There is no shame in vulnerability. There is no weakness in admitting you can't do it all by yourself. When you embrace healing as a journey, you open yourself up to transformation, a transformation that is gradual, profound, and lasting. You begin to notice the little miracles, the moments when your heart feels lighter, the mornings when you smile without forcing it, the days when old wounds no longer sting as sharply, the quiet confidence that grows inside you, not because you are perfect, but because you have survived and you are still standing. So, remember, healing is not about becoming flawless. It's about becoming whole, whole with all your scars, whole with all your stories, whole with all your humanity. Take your time, be patient, honor your own pace. Because this journey of healing is the most sacred journey you will ever take, and every step you take is a victory. Your story, every chapter, every struggle, every triumph is your power. It is not something to hide, to be ashamed of, or to diminish. It is a light that shines through the darkness, a beacon for those who feel lost, and a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. For too long, many of us have been told to keep our stories quiet, to sanitize them for public consumption, to package them neatly so they don't scare or burden others. But your story, in its raw, unfiltered truth, is a gift. It is a gift not only to yourself, but to the world. Think about the people who have moved you most deeply in your life, the ones who made you feel seen and understood. Chances are, their power came not from perfection, but from their willingness to be real, to share their vulnerabilities, to show their wounds and their wisdom, because stories connect us. They remind us that we are not alone. Your story carries lessons that no textbook can teach. It carries empathy that comes from having lived through pain. It carries hope that is born from survival, and it carries the courage to keep going when the world says stop. When you own your story, you reclaim your voice. You take back the narrative from shame, fear, and silence. You stand tall and say, "This is who I am. This is what I have lived through, and I am still here." There is immense power in that declaration, because it transforms you from victim to survivor, from silence to storyteller, from invisible to unstoppable. Your story also has the power to heal others. There are people out there right now who need to hear what you have been through, who need to know that they are not broken, that they are not alone, that healing is possible, that hope is alive. So I want you to ask yourself, what is my story? How can I share it with authenticity and courage? What truth do I carry that could light the way for someone else? And here is the beautiful truth. Your story does not have to be perfect or polished. It does not have to be easy to tell. It only has to be yours. The moments you have lived, the battles you have fought, the lessons you have learned, they are the foundation of your power. They are the fire that fuels your purpose. They are the voice that will inspire, uplift, and change lives. So today, I invite you to embrace your story fully, to hold it close with love and pride, to share it boldly, knowing that your truth is the light that the world needs. Your story is your power, your story is your gift, and your story is your legacy. Stand tall, speak loud, shine bright, because the world is waiting to hear your voice. As we come to the close of this journey together, I want you to take a deep breath and feel the weight of what you have just embraced. You have looked inward, faced your pain, and begun to see your wounds not as weaknesses, but as sacred doorways to wisdom. You have understood that healing is not a race or a finish line, but a lifelong journey, one that demands patience, courage, and self-compassion. Remember this: your story is not something to hide away. It is the power that fuels your light, the fire that keeps you moving forward when the world feels dark, and the gift that you offer to others simply by being unapologetically you. There will be days when the path feels too steep and the nights too long. But know this: every step you take, no matter how small, is a victory. Every time you choose to stand up, to speak your truth, to love yourself through the pain, you are rewriting your story. You are creating a life not defined by your scars, but by your strength. So walk forward with grace, carry your wounds with pride, trust the journey even when the road is unclear, and above all, remember that you are never alone. You are part of a greater story, a story of resilience, hope, and infinite possibility. And your story, your true, beautiful, imperfect story, is exactly what the world needs right now. Thank you for allowing me to share this space with you. Thank you for your courage, your openness, and your heart. Keep shining, keep healing, keep being you, because the world is brighter just because you are here. There comes a moment in your life when you feel something shift, a silence so loud it drowns every word you've ever said. You gave, you loved, you stayed, but somewhere along the way, they stopped seeing you. And that's when the whisper begins, the whisper that comes from your soul, not from your wounds. It says, they don't value you anymore. And in that moment, you have two choices. You can chase the love you once received, or you can choose yourself and become the love you've been looking for. This isn't about proving them wrong. This isn't about revenge. This is about your becoming. You see, when someone doesn't value you anymore, it's not a loss. It's a mirror showing you where you've abandoned yourself trying to belong to someone else. But hear me now. There's something powerful waiting for you on the other side of that pain. Something beautiful grows when you stop begging to be seen. And if you're watching this today, it means that deep down, you're ready to rise. Not just survive, but rise. Let's talk about the pattern. It starts with a smile, a connection, a spark. They see you, you feel safe, so you give, and then they take, you open your heart, they receive it without care. You explain your needs, they brush them aside. You cry in front of them, they turn away. You beg for clarity, they offer confusion. You ask for love, they give you silence, and you start wondering, what did I do wrong? But this is the trap. Because every time you try harder, you lose another piece of yourself. You begin to confuse effort with worthiness, love with performance, peace with silence. But not anymore, not today. Today we break the cycle, not by changing them, not by teaching them how to love you, but by unlearning the need for their validation. We begin this healing, hour by hour, by returning to the most sacred home you've ever known, yourself. Let's begin. There comes a time, an unshakable moment of stillness, when you are forced to meet your own eyes, not in a literal mirror, but in the deeper, spiritual one. This moment does not arrive gently. It crashes through the noise of your daily routine. It disrupts your rhythm. It breaks patterns you've comfortably settled into. And in that unsettling quiet, the truth appears. You have forgotten who you are. Not because you're weak, not because you're lost, but because you've been too busy trying to be enough for someone who decided they could live without your light. You twisted yourself into a version they might like. You bent your boundaries to fit into the blueprint of their comfort. You edited your laughter, your dreams, your desires, all in pursuit of their attention. And in that process, piece by piece, you disappeared. So now, sit not with the world, not with your phone, not with distractions, but with you. Ask the hardest question you'll ever ask yourself. Who have I become? You may realize that your smile isn't as free as it used to be. Your voice isn't as loud. Your energy isn't as wild. You've become a muted version of your original self, a diluted soul trying to stay relevant in someone else's story. But you weren't born for background roles. You were born to be center stage in your own life. And if someone can't see your brilliance, maybe it's time you stop dimming your light for their comfort. You once danced without fear of judgment. You once dreamed without asking for permission. That version of you, the untamed, unapologetic, alive version, is still in there, waiting, longing, hoping, and this is your hour to bring them back. This isn't about fixing yourself. You're not broken. This is about remembering yourself. You were never the problem. The problem was handing your mirror to someone else and letting them tell you what they saw. Take it back. Reclaim your reflection. Look deep into your own eyes and promise this. I will no longer become less just to be loved more. Spend this hour peeling back the layers that were never yours. Let go of their voice in your head. Let go of the silence that made you feel small. Let go of the comparisons, the criticisms, the conditional love. And come home to you, because when you finally see yourself clearly again, you'll wonder how you ever allowed someone else to blur the lens. This is your mirror moment, the most sacred beginning, the reflection of truth. And from here, everything starts to change. There's a profound exhaustion that comes from trying to explain yourself to someone who has already decided they don't want to understand. You might find yourself caught in a relentless loop. Over and over you explain your feelings, your choices, your value, your heart. You lay your soul bare, hoping for recognition, validation, a flicker of empathy. But what happens? The words bounce off walls of indifference or worse, walls of dismissal. It's like shouting into the void, desperate for an echo that never returns. This is a painful place, a place where your voice feels small and powerless, where every attempt to clarify, to justify, to make sense only makes you feel more invisible. Because here's the hard truth. Explaining your worth to those who have chosen not to see it is like offering pearls to swine. The gift is wasted, the value unrecognized, the giver diminished. It's time to stop, not out of bitterness or anger, but out of fierce self-respect. When someone doesn't value you, the greatest power you can wield is your silence. Silence is not absence. Silence is presence in its purest form. It is the quiet force that commands respect without saying a single word. It is the stillness that unsettles those who have grown accustomed to taking you for granted. When you stop trying to convince, you stop giving them control. You reclaim your narrative, your energy, your dignity. Imagine the liberation of no longer performing for an audience that never applauds. Imagine the peace of no longer explaining your worth to someone who never believed in it. Silence becomes your sanctuary, your shield, your statement. And in that silence, your inner voice grows louder. Your soul's truth becomes undeniable. You begin to hear yourself clearly again, the person who deserves to be seen, heard, and cherished without having to beg for it. You reclaim yourself, worth not through words, but through your quiet refusal to accept less than you deserve. This hour is about embracing silence, not as a punishment for others, but as a gift to yourself. It's about letting go of the exhausting need to be understood by those unwilling to understand. It's about recognizing that your worth is not negotiable, not debatable, and certainly not something you need to explain. When you stop explaining your worth, a transformation happens. You stop shrinking. You stop pleading. You stop bending yourself into knots to fit someone else's expectations. And in that space, something remarkable begins to grow. Unshakable self-respect. And what happens to those who once took you for granted? They notice, maybe too late, but that's no longer your concern, because you have stepped into your power, a power so profound it needs no validation. So now, embrace this hour with courage. Practice your silence. Feel its weight, its strength, its beauty. Let it teach you that you are enough just as you are. And watch how, when you stop explaining, the universe starts explaining to you. For so long, you've been pouring yourself into someone else's cup, trying to fill their emptiness, trying to be the person who finally makes them see your worth. Every ounce of your energy, every thought, every moment was devoted to chasing their attention, hoping for a change, praying for acknowledgement. But what if all that energy, all that effort, could be reclaimed and turned inward? What if instead of running after someone who doesn't value you, you start running toward yourself? This is the moment where transformation truly begins. When you stop chasing, stop begging, stop molding your entire existence around someone else's approval, and instead turn your focus inward. Because your energy is the most precious resource you have, and how you use it determines the course of your life. Think about it. How many hours, days, weeks, months, maybe even years have you spent waiting for a text, replaying conversations, analyzing what went wrong, imagining how to fix what wasn't yours to fix in the first place. How much of your precious life has been swallowed by uncertainty, doubt, and the endless desire to be seen by those who chose not to look? Now, reclaim that time, reclaim your power, redirect that energy to build the life you deserve. Start by nurturing your passions, your dreams, your growth. Take that energy once spent in emotional labor and pour it into yourself. Learn new skills. Travel to places you've never been. Rediscover old hobbies. Create new memories with people who lift you up. This is not just self-care, this is soul-care. This is radical self-respect in motion. When you shift your focus from chasing them to building you, something remarkable happens. Your sense of worth becomes independent of anyone else's validation. Your happiness begins to bloom from within, untouched by their absence or indifference. And the beautiful irony, the more you build your own world, the less their opinion matters, and the more magnetic you become. Building yourself is an act of defiance against the pain of being undervalued. It's a declaration that your life is yours, not a stage for others' judgments, but a canvas for your authentic expression. It's about becoming so full of your own light that no shadow they cast can dim you. This hour, imagine the possibilities if you invested the same passion you used to spend on convincing others, on convincing yourself instead. Imagine the strength you'll find in waking up every day committed to your growth, your dreams, your peace. Imagine the peace of finally living your life on your own terms. Remember, the best revenge is not to make them feel your absence, but for you to feel your presence, powerful, whole, and unstoppable. So, take this time, reflect on what you want to build. What dreams did you pause? What parts of yourself did you silence? What future can you create if you redirect all that chasing energy toward becoming your own champion? This is your turning point, not because they left you, not because they didn't value you, but because you chose to value yourself more. And in that choice lies the freedom to rewrite your story, to build a life so beautiful, so vibrant, so unapologetically yours, that no one else's opinion can ever shake it again. There is a sacredness to peace, a quiet power that is often overlooked until it's lost. When someone doesn't value you anymore, it's not just their indifference that hurts. It's the way their presence or absence disrupts the balance within you. Your peace becomes fragile, vulnerable to their words, actions, and attitudes. It seeps away, drop by drop, until you find yourself drained, anxious, and questioning your worth. This hour is about reclaiming that peace, about understanding that your emotional and mental well-being is not negotiable. Protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's essential. It's the foundation upon which your happiness, growth, and resilience are built. To protect your peace, you must first recognize what threatens it. Sometimes it's loud and obvious, a toxic person who drains your energy, a relationship filled with constant conflict or neglect. Other times, it's subtle and uncomfortable silence, a persistent feeling of being undervalued, the slow erosion of your boundaries. Boundaries are not walls to shut others out. They are gates you control, doors you choose to open or close based on what nourishes your soul. Setting boundaries is an act of self-love and self-preservation. It's saying, I will no longer accept less than I deserve. Ask yourself, what are you tolerating right now that steals your joy? What conversations, interactions, or relationships leave you feeling empty or small? Who or what consistently drains your energy without giving anything back? This hour invites you to face those questions honestly. It asks you to name what you must say no to, and to find the courage to say it loud and clear to yourself first, and then to others if needed. Protecting your peace also means choosing where you invest your time and energy. It means learning to walk away from situations that pull you into drama, negativity, or emotional turmoil. It means choosing environments and people that uplift you, challenge you to grow, and honor your worth. Imagine the relief of not answering every call that causes anxiety, the freedom in not showing up where you're not valued, the strength in refusing apologies that come with no real change. This is the power of protecting your peace. But protecting your peace is not always easy. It requires the courage to disappoint others, to stand alone if necessary, and to put your well-being above pleasing those who don't appreciate you. It requires patience as you learn to trust yourself and your instincts again. This hour is also a call to cultivate peace from within. Practices like mindfulness, meditation, journaling, or simply spending quiet moments alone help anchor you in your truth. They build resilience so that external turbulence doesn't shake you. Remember, peace is a state of mind and heart that you create and defend. When you guard your space fiercely, you create room for joy, creativity, and love that's reciprocal and nurturing. So take this hour to reflect deeply on your boundaries. Write them down if you like. Visualize yourself surrounded by a protective shield of peace that no one can penetrate without your permission. Feel the power in that image. Because once your peace becomes non-negotiable, your life transforms. You attract energy that matches your own. You make decisions from strength instead of fear, and you become the guardian of your own happiness. Protect your peace like the precious gift it is, because in doing so, you're not just saving yourself, you're setting the standard for how the world must treat you. This is the moment that many fear, but is often the most liberating decision you can make, the decision to walk away. Not out of anger, desperation, or bitterness, but with grace, dignity, and unshakable self-respect. Walking away is not a sign of defeat. It is the ultimate act of courage and self-love. When someone doesn't value you anymore, clinging to that relationship, that job, or that friendship only drains you further. It keeps you trapped in a cycle of pain, hoping for something to change, begging for recognition that might never come. But when you walk away like you mean it, something extraordinary happens inside you, a profound shift in your energy, your mindset, and your life. Walking away is a declaration. I am no longer willing to accept less than I deserve. I am choosing myself. It's the moment when you reclaim your power from those who tried to diminish it. And it's not a rash decision taken in the heat of the moment, but a calm, deliberate choice made after deep reflection and self-awareness. Think about it. How many times have you stayed too long in places where you were unseen, unheard, or unappreciated? How many times did you convince yourself that if you just tried harder, loved more, or gave more, things would be different? That hope, while natural, often keeps us chained to disappointment. But walking away is not about burning bridges or holding grudges. It's about closing chapters that no longer serve you so you can open new ones filled with possibilities. It's about stepping out of the shadow of someone else's neglect and into the light of your own worth. This hour, I want you to feel the power of walking away, not as a loss, but as a powerful gain. Imagine standing tall, shoulders back, heart steady, and taking that step. Visualize the quiet strength in your stride, the peace in your silence, and the clarity in your decision. When you walk away like you mean it, you send a message, not just to them, but to yourself and the universe, that you respect yourself enough to let go. You don't need validation from those who fail to see your value. You don't need their approval to feel whole, and here's the surprising truth. When you walk away, people often notice. They wonder where the warmth, the love, or the effort went. Sometimes they even come back, hoping to reclaim what they lost. But the power is no longer in their hands, it's in yours. The real victory, however, is that you don't need them anymore. You've opened the door to new opportunities, healthier relationships, and a life where you are the priority. You've created space for people who truly see, appreciate, and celebrate you. Walking away is a radical act of self-care and self-respect. It's a powerful reset that clears the way for healing and growth. And while it may be difficult at first, the freedom and peace you gain will be worth every step. So today, take this hour to prepare yourself for that walk. Reflect on what walking away looks like for you. What fears or doubts hold you back? How can you find the strength to say goodbye and move forward? Write down your feelings, breathe deeply, and imagine the life waiting for you beyond the need for approval or acceptance. Feel the rising confidence in your heart that comes with choosing yourself. Because when someone doesn't value you anymore and you walk away like you mean it, you do more than leave a situation. You enter a new chapter of empowerment, freedom, and true self-love. And that, my friend, is the most magnetic force in the world. You have just spent 5 profound hours, 5 hours of peeling back the layers that have held you captive, 5 hours of stepping bravely into your own truth, 5 hours of reclaiming the value that was always yours to claim. This is more than a speech. It is a journey of awakening, of rediscovery, and of transformation. You looked in the mirror, not just the glass in front of you, but the mirror of your soul, and faced yourself with honesty and compassion. You embraced the power of silence, learning that sometimes the most profound messages are spoken not with words, but with quiet strength. You redirected your precious energy from chasing those who failed to see your worth, to building a life so rich and full that your absence becomes a statement in itself. You protected your peace fiercely, understanding that boundaries are sacred doors that guard your heart and spirit. And finally, you took the courageous step to walk away, not with anger, but with grace and unshakable self-respect. This is not the end. It is the beginning of everything you deserve. Imagine the life waiting for you beyond this moment. One where your worth is never questioned, where your love is never taken for granted, and where your peace is never compromised. A life where you stand in your full power, unapologetically yourself, and magnetize everything good and true to your path. Remember this. The moment you stop trying to convince others of your value is the moment you start truly living. The moment you stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that don't appreciate you is the moment you begin to grow beyond all limits. The moment you choose yourself over approval, your soul expands beyond measure. You are worthy, not because of what you do for others, but because of who you are, whole, complete, and infinitely valuable. So when someone doesn't value you anymore, don't chase, don't explain, don't plead. Try this instead. Choose you, protect your peace, walk away with grace, and watch what happens. Doors will open. New people will come into your life. People who see you, respect you, and cherish you. Opportunities will arise that align with your true self. Your spirit will soar because you have finally given yourself permission to fly. You are no longer waiting for validation because you have found it within. This is your time, your moment, your life. Thank you for dedicating these hours to your healing and your growth. The world needs your light, your voice, your presence. Now go forward with courage and confidence, knowing that the greatest love story you will ever have is the one you write with yourself. Walk into that story boldly. Walk away from what no longer serves you. Walk toward your limitless future, and never forget, You are more than enough. You have always been. Thank you. 5 ways to handle people who hurt you. Let me ask you something. Have you ever laid in bed at night replaying a conversation, a betrayal, a moment, wishing you had said more, done more, or maybe wishing it never happened at all? Pain caused by others cuts deep, especially when it comes from someone you trusted, someone you gave pieces of your soul to. It's not just a moment, it's a scar. But here's the truth. You cannot control what people do to you, but you can always control how you rise from it. Today, I want to share with you 5 powerful ways to handle people who hurt you, not with bitterness, not with vengeance, but with strength, grace, and growth. 1. Don't react, reflect. When someone hurts you, your first instinct might be to fight back, clap back, or shut down. But power lives in the pause. Take a breath, step back, ask yourself, is this about me, or is this about them? Because most people who hurt others are bleeding themselves. Let their actions be a mirror of their pain, not a definition of your worth. Responding from reflection instead of reaction puts you back in the driver's seat. 2. Set boundaries without apology. You are not a doormat. You are not obligated to keep toxic people in your life just because you once shared love, time, or history. Boundaries are not walls, they're doors with locks. You decide who gets the key. Speak your truth with clarity, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. Saying no more isn't cruel, it's kind to yourself. 3. Don't seek closure, create it. You may never get the apology. They may never own what they did. That's not justice. That's reality. Waiting for someone else to heal you is giving them power they didn't deserve in the first place. You do not need their remorse to move on. You need your own permission. Write your own ending to the chapter, then turn the page. 4. Transform pain into purpose. What if the hurt you experienced could become the fuel for your highest growth? I'm not saying what they did was okay, but I am saying you have the power to rise because of it. Channel the pain, use it, build from it. Some of the most powerful versions of ourselves are born from the ashes of our lowest moments. Let the hurt be your teacher, not your anchor. 5. Forgive, but not for them. Now hear me on this one. Forgiveness is not saying what you did is okay. Forgiveness is saying, I will no longer carry this weight in my heart. You forgive not to erase the past, but to free your future. It's not for them, it's for you, because you deserve peace, you deserve joy, and you deserve to heal. Let me leave you with this. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become after it. Handle those who hurt you not with hate, but with power, with elegance, with fire in your soul and peace in your heart. And never forget, you are stronger than the pain. When someone hurts you, especially someone close, the instinctive response is emotional. Anger surges, the mind races, you feel betrayed, humiliated, perhaps even broken. In that heated moment, the temptation to react quickly is overwhelming. Maybe it's a sharp text, a confrontational call, or silent treatment. But what if, instead of reacting from that raw place, you paused and reflected? That pause is not weakness, it's wisdom, because the space between what happens to you and how you respond, that's where your power lies. Too often, we let other people's behavior dictate our emotional state. When they lash out, we lash back. When they lie, we call them out. When they ghost us, we obsess over closure. But in doing so, we give them power over our peace. And I want to remind you, your peace is sacred. Not everyone deserves access to it. Not everyone earns the right to disturb it. Imagine this. Someone insults you, disrespects you, betrays you. You feel the sting. It's real, but now instead of immediately reacting, you breathe. You say nothing, not because you don't feel deeply, but because you are choosing to respond wisely. You sit with that emotion and you ask yourself a few hard questions. What is this person really projecting onto me? Is their pain speaking louder than their logic? Am I about to react out of my ego or respond from my truth? That moment of reflection doesn't erase what happened. It just reframes how you deal with it, and that changes everything. We've been conditioned to believe that silence in the face of hurt is weakness, that not clapping back means you've lost. But let me tell you, some of the strongest people in the world are the ones who choose stillness over chaos, who walk away not because they're afraid, but because they know the cost of losing their peace is too high. Because when you reflect instead of react, you start to see patterns. You start to recognize that some people hurt others because they're hurting. That pain they never healed from becomes a weapon, and they swing it at whoever's closest. And if you react, you're not just stepping into their chaos. You're giving them a front row seat to your peace. Reflecting means taking your power back. It means recognizing that not every battle is yours to fight. That sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing, not out of spite, but out of clarity. You see the situation for what it is, not what your emotions magnify it to be. It's like standing at the shore during a storm. You can scream at the waves, try to fight the tide, or you can stand firm, grounded, and let the storm pass. That's reflection. It doesn't mean you don't feel the storm. It means you don't let it drown you, and here's something beautiful that happens when you pause. Your self-worth speaks louder. You remember who you are. You remember that someone's inability to love you properly has nothing to do with your worthiness of love. You remember that being misunderstood doesn't make you less valuable. You step out of the victim mindset and into the space of ownership. Ownership of your healing, ownership of your peace. Reflecting also allows you to ask yourself, what do I want to do with this pain? Because pain can either be a weapon or a teacher. You can use it to hurt back, or you can use it to grow. And the people who grow, they're the ones who learn to pause, to reflect, to choose better, not bitter. In your reflection, you may come to realize that some people don't deserve your energy. That responding to them is like feeding a fire that only burns you in the end. So you choose to conserve your energy to protect your spirit. You choose peace, not because you're weak, but because you're wise. You start to see the difference between reacting for validation and responding with intention. One comes from fear, the other from strength. One tries to control the outside world, the other transforms your inner one. And maybe, just maybe, that person who hurt you was sent not to break you, but to awaken you, to teach you something about yourself, your strength, your values, your boundaries, your resilience. But you only get the lesson if you pause long enough to receive it. So, the next time someone hurts you and you feel that fire building, I invite you to do the bravest thing of all. Wait. Don't text, don't lash out, don't run, just sit, breathe, reflect, and when you do speak or act, let it be from a place of clarity, not chaos. That is where your healing begins. That is where your power returns. Setting boundaries can feel uncomfortable, especially when it involves people we care about, family, friends, partners, coworkers. There's a fear that by saying no, by stepping back, or by drawing a clear line, we'll be seen as cold, selfish, or unkind. But here's what's true. Protecting your peace is not a betrayal to others. It's an act of deep love for yourself. When someone hurts you, disrespects you, or repeatedly crosses the line, it is not your job to tolerate it for the sake of keeping the peace. Peace that costs you your dignity, your emotional safety, or your mental health isn't peace at all. It's quiet chaos. It's the slow erosion of your self-worth. Setting boundaries isn't about punishing the other person. It's not about revenge. It's not about building walls. It's about understanding where you end and where someone else begins. It's about deciding what you will and won't allow into your space, into your energy, into your life. Too many of us were taught that love means sacrifice, that love means endurance, that to walk away from a toxic dynamic is to abandon, to fail. But love is not supposed to break you. It's not supposed to leave you questioning your value or your sanity. And when it does, the bravest, most loving thing you can do, for you and for them, is to say, "This is not okay with me." There is power in claiming your emotional space, in saying, "I will not allow you to speak to me that way," in deciding, "I cannot continue this relationship as it is," in walking away when someone refuses to honor the boundaries you've clearly communicated. You don't need to yell. You don't need to explain over and over again. You don't even need their agreement. You need your clarity. And here's the thing. People who benefit from you having no boundaries will always see your limits as a problem. They'll call you too sensitive, difficult, or dramatic. They'll try to twist the narrative and make you feel guilty. That's not your burden to carry. You are not responsible for how someone responds to your boundary. You are only responsible for setting it. Some people won't understand, and that's okay. They don't have to, because this is not about them. This is about you reclaiming your power. This is about you saying, "I matter. My needs matter. My mental and emotional health matters." You see, boundaries are not rejections. They are redirections. They teach people how to treat you. They show the world what you will and won't tolerate. And more importantly, they show you what you are willing to allow into your inner world. The truth is, boundaries are an act of self-respect. They are you choosing yourself even when it's hard, even when it's painful, even when it means letting go of people who once meant everything to you. Because love without respect is manipulation, and connection without boundaries is chaos. Sometimes the people who hurt you won't even realize they're doing it. Maybe because that behavior is normal to them. Maybe because they've never been held accountable. Maybe because no one's ever said, "That's not okay." But it is not your job to stay silent just to keep the peace. It is not your job to shrink so others can feel comfortable. You can love someone deeply and still say, "This doesn't work for me." You can forgive someone and still remove them from your life. You can care for someone and still choose yourself. And let's be honest, setting boundaries doesn't always mean cutting people off. Sometimes it just means redefining the relationship, spending less time, shifting the dynamic, choosing how and when you engage. You don't need to burn bridges, but you also don't have to keep walking across one that's constantly falling apart. You deserve relationships that feel safe, that feel mutual, that feel healthy. Relationships where love and respect live together. And if someone cannot meet you there, let them go with grace. But do not hold the door open for disrespect. The hardest part about setting boundaries is that it often comes with loss, the loss of comfort, the loss of old dynamics, sometimes even the loss of people, but the space that opens up afterward, that space is where healing lies. That space is where your self-worth begins to breathe again. So if someone has hurt you repeatedly, deeply, carelessly, take a moment to ask yourself, what do I need to feel safe again? What behavior will I no longer accept? What kind of love do I want to create in my life? Then draw your line, not in anger, not in fear, but in truth. And when you do, stand by it with courage, with kindness, with unwavering self-respect. Because at the end of the day, you are not selfish for choosing yourself. You are not mean for refusing to be mistreated. You are not wrong for protecting your heart. You are wise, you are worthy, and you are finally remembering that you matter. One of the most painful experiences in life is not just being hurt. It's being left without closure. The unanswered questions, the silence, the loose ends that never got tied up. We are taught to seek resolution, to wait for the apology, to yearn for an explanation that somehow makes the hurt make sense. But sometimes the truth is brutally simple. The closure we need isn't coming. The person who hurt you may never say they're sorry. They may never admit what they did. They may not even see the damage they caused. And in those moments, you have a choice to make. You can wait endlessly, replaying the pain like a record that never stops spinning. Or you can choose to create your own closure. Creating your own closure is one of the hardest but most powerful things you will ever do. It's not a moment of giving up. It's a moment of waking up. Waking up to the fact that your healing can't be held hostage by someone else's lack of accountability. Waking up to the realization that you do not need someone else's words to validate your pain. You felt it. You lived it. That's enough. When you stop waiting for someone to give you the closure you deserve, you begin to take back your narrative. You begin to reclaim the pen and write your own ending. Because the truth is, waiting for closure often means staying emotionally tied to the very thing that broke you. And as long as you're waiting for them to make it right, you're stuck in a story that keeps you small, keeps you wounded, keeps you in a place where healing cannot fully begin. Closure doesn't come from their apology. It comes from your understanding, from your decision to no longer need their validation in order to move forward. It's about accepting that what happened, happened. It wasn't fair, it wasn't okay, but it doesn't have to define the rest of your story. Letting go of the need for closure means sitting with the uncomfortable truth that some chapters end without explanation. Some people leave without reason. Some betrayals never get unpacked, and that's not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their limitations. And still, it hurts, of course it does. You wanted answers. You wanted justice. You wanted to hear them say, "I see you. I understand now. I was wrong." But healing doesn't always come with justice. Sometimes it comes quietly, in the middle of a sleepless night, when you finally whisper to yourself, "I can't carry this anymore." Creating your own closure is not a one-time event, it's a process. It's the daily decision to stop rereading the same painful paragraph of your past. It's the commitment to write something new, even if the ending of the last chapter still aches. It's the strength to say, "This hurts, but I won't let it control me anymore." Sometimes closure comes in the form of a letter you'll never send, a conversation you have with yourself, not them, a long walk where you cry and release everything that's been building up. Sometimes it looks like therapy. Sometimes it looks like silence. But every time, it looks like you choosing your own healing over waiting for theirs. And maybe, just maybe, you don't need closure from them, because what you really needed all along was clarity from yourself. Clarity that you were mistreated, clarity that you deserve better, clarity that you didn't imagine it, that you're not crazy, that your feelings are valid. You begin to understand that closure is not about understanding why they did what they did. It's about deciding that what they did is no longer going to define how you show up in your life. It's about letting go of the belief that justice must be served before you can move on, because justice doesn't always come. But peace can. Peace comes when you stop trying to rewrite the past and start creating a future that feels good to live in. And when you give yourself that closure, something extraordinary happens. You stop chasing answers. You stop needing validation. You stop asking, "Why me?" And you start saying, "Even so, I rise." That's where the healing begins, not in the apology, but in the release. The freedom that comes from creating your own closure is not something anyone can give you. It's something you give to yourself. It's the moment you take your power back, the moment you stop bleeding for someone who never brought you a bandage, the moment you say, "You don't have to make this right. I'm going to be okay anyway." So no, you may never get the closure you thought you needed. You may never get the moment where they look you in the eye and finally understand, but that's okay, because now you understand, and that is enough. Closure doesn't always come wrapped in words or apologies. Sometimes it comes wrapped in silence, strength, and self-love. And when it does, you'll feel the shift. Not because they changed, but because you did. You stopped waiting. You started healing, and that is real freedom. Forgiveness is one of those words that can feel heavier than the hurt itself. It carries the weight of misconception, as if extending forgiveness somehow diminishes the reality of the pain you endured, or worse, excuses the offense. But the truth is more liberating. Forgiveness is not about condoning what happened or erasing the scars left behind. It's not even about the person who hurt you. It's about offering yourself a lifeline out of the prison of bitterness and resentment. When you forgive, you unclench your heart. You release the grudge you've been nursing, and in doing so, you reclaim the power that hurt tried to steal from you. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with rocks, each one symbolic of an offense, a betrayal, a harsh word that cut deep. Every day you haul that weight behind you, your shoulders ache. You move slower. You lose sight of the beauty around you because you're focused on the burden you can't put down. Forgiveness is choosing to empty that pack, stone by stone. You're not throwing the offense away or pretending it never happened. You're simply saying, "I will no longer let this define me or weigh me down." That shift in perspective is revolutionary. It is the moment you stop dragging your past pain into your present and start stepping lighter into your future. When you forgive, you're not doing it for them. You're doing it for you. That person who hurt you might never acknowledge the damage they caused, and they may not even understand the depth of your wounds. Waiting for their apology or validation is like waiting for a ship in a desert. It won't come, and you remain stranded. But when you forgive, you hoist your own sail. You navigate towards self-love, self-respect, and ultimately self-peace. You refuse to let your emotional well-being hinge on someone else's capacity for remorse. Forgiveness also reshapes your relationship with your own story. Without it, you risk becoming the victim, replaying the offense on an endless loop, speaking about it as though it's the defining chapter of your life. But when you forgive for yourself, you reframe the narrative. You become the author who says, "Yes, this happened. Yes, it hurt, but it did not break me." You write in new lines of resilience and courage. You draw upon the lessons learned, the clarity about who you are, what you deserve, and how strong you truly can be. It's important to remember that forgiveness is not linear. There will be days when the sting surfaces again, like an echo from a canyon you thought you'd exited. You might feel the familiar rise of anger or the ache of betrayal all over again. That's not failure, it's part of the process. Each time you encounter that echo and choose forgiveness again, you reinforce your commitment to peace. You remind yourself that true forgiveness isn't a one-time event. It's a muscle you strengthen each day by choosing grace over grievance. In forgiving, you free up the space in your heart to cultivate joy, love, and compassion. Harboring resentment is like planting weeds in your garden and wondering why no flowers bloom. When you pull out those weeds, you create room for seeds of positivity to take root. You might be surprised how forgiveness can open you to deeper connections, even to yourself. You begin to approach your own imperfections with kindness because you understand the weight of being forgiven. You realize that self-forgiveness is just as vital. Letting go of shame, guilt, and the harsh judgments you sometimes direct inward. And let's be honest, sometimes forgiving for yourself means setting new standards for others. You might forgive someone's hurtful behavior, yet decide that you no longer want them in your life in the same way. That's okay. Forgiveness and boundary setting can coexist. You can choose to forgive without choosing to re-enter a relationship that compromises your well-being. You can release the resentment while also releasing the expectation that what was once broken can, or should, be made whole again. That discernment is another layer of the freedom you create for yourself. When you step into this realm of self-directed forgiveness, you start to live with a new lightness. You wake up feeling less reactive, less burdened by the ghosts of past slights. You find that your energy is no longer siphoned off by the need to prove yourself right or to justify your pain. Instead, you're free to pour that energy into your dreams, your passions, your relationships that lift you up. You become an invitation for peace in a world that often glamorizes conflict. Your very presence testifies that liberation is possible, and that true healing comes not from external validation, but from the deep, radical act of forgiving yourself the right to move on. So forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you do. Forgive not to rewrite history, but to rewrite your future. Forgive not as a favor to others, but as an act of self-mercy. In that decision, you step out of the shadow of hurt and into the clarity of your own worth. You stand tall, unencumbered by the weight of bitterness, and you move forward with a heart open to all the goodness that awaits you.